welcome back to my channel. I hope y'all are doing well, and happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope it's good this year. So when I think of Christmas and the holidays, I think of Harry Potter. And maybe that's just me, I don't know, but I feel like the Harry Potter movies are like those movies that aren't really Christmas movies, but they're Christmassy enough to be like honorary Christmas movies, you know? So I thought it would be fun to sort some Buffy characters into Hogwarts houses. I actually did a poll over on my Instagram and had you guys vote to decide between this video and another video, and the results came out to be 50-50, so my family had to be the tiebreaker, but I did end up doing this video. If you're not following my Instagram, you should. I'll link it in the description below. You guys can be a part of polls like the one that I used to decide to film this video, and there's tons of other stuff, Buffy memes, TikToks, stuff that I post, so you should definitely go follow it if you're not already. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. So before I even start sorting these characters in Hogwarts houses, I just want to preface this by saying it may seem like I am stereotyping certain characters, like, you know, putting certain characters into Slytherin or Gryffindor or whatever. I'm not trying to. I've seen other videos or articles where people try to sort fictional characters into Hogwarts houses, and people in the comments got really mad because the people doing the sorting were putting like all villains into Slytherin and stuff, which I get. Sometimes people do just go, oh, villain equals Slytherin, but I think a lot of it just has to do with how the Hogwarts houses are set up and how character archetypes in literature and TV in general are set up, especially when applied to like the hero's journey that we so often see in fantasy and sci-fi. So if it seems like I'm putting certain characters in Gryffindor or certain characters in Hufflepuff or whatever, I'm not trying to just be like, oh, they're a good character, they must be a Gryffindor. That's just, a lot of times it's going to end up being that way because of how the Hogwarts houses were made. So just keep that in mind. I did put a lot of thought into this. One might say too much thought, but it still did come out being like, oh, a lot of characters are in this house or whatever. So yeah, don't get mad at me. It's just how it ended up. So what better way to start off than with Buffy herself? Buffy's definitely a Gryffindor. I don't think anyone's gonna argue about that. Again, because she is the main character in a fantasy story and because she is the hero, she just fits Gryffindor. I mean, the only other house I could see an argument being made for is Hufflepuff, but just her bravery and her recklessness, to be honest, I think put her in Gryffindor. She is just a Gryffindor through and through, you know? Again, if she were to be anything else, it would be Hufflepuff, but it's really no contest. Buffy's a Gryffindor. So next, I'll go ahead and sort Willow, and I think Willow, because she changes so much throughout the series, it's hard to just like pinpoint one house. So I can honestly see her being in any house and I would be like, oh, that makes sense. You know, I think the issue with doing a video like this is, you know, in the Harry Potter universe, when the kids are sorted, they're 11 years old and they're only sorted based on their values and their personalities in that moment. But doing this, we're looking at Willow's character across 7, and if you're counting the comics, 12 seasons, and she changes a lot, so you could really pinpoint any moment in time and be like, oh, she's a Slytherin, oh, she's a Gryffindor. But I tried to think it through with logic and process of elimination, and I think I've come to a conclusion that I'm happy with, so just bear with me. So right off the bat, I don't think I would put Willow in Hufflepuff because, I mean, she definitely has some Hufflepuff qualities, but I just don't think they're as pronounced as the qualities that she shares with other houses, and she definitely has some issues when it comes to honesty throughout the series, and that is a big thing with Hufflepuff. And that's not to say Hufflepuffs don't slip up with honesty, but I just don't think Willow is a Hufflepuff. And I also don't think she's a Slytherin, although I'm sure some of you probably thought, oh, Slytherin because of the Dark Willow arc, and I could see that, but I don't think the Dark Willow arc necessarily aligns with Slytherin traits because Slytherins are cunning, They are very calculating in their plans, and they're very ambitious. But Willow, when she was Dark Willow, she wasn't going after power for the sake of power, and she definitely didn't have like this evil master plan that she spent a long time thinking about. She acted on grief. Obviously, we did see her get kind of power hungry as she became more powerful in magic, but I think ultimately she wanted power to achieve vengeance and to overcome her grief, and I don't think she wanted power just so she could be this evil mastermind. And she definitely was not calculating at all in her plans. She just acted without thinking. Just, what can I do next to get closer to my goal? She didn't have some evil scheme that she planned. She wasn't careful. She wasn't sneaky. I just don't think she's a Slytherin. She is very reckless as Dark Willow and as regular Willow, and that, I think, makes her a Gryffindor. If she weren't a Gryffindor, she would definitely be a Ravenclaw, and I could definitely see an argument being made for Ravenclaw. She is very book smart, obviously, but I think she values bravery and friendship and that kind of stuff more than she values knowledge, and in that way she's kind of the Hermione of the Buffyverse. So yeah, Gryffindor, but I could see her being a Ravenclaw and it would make sense to me. So yeah. Now, if Willow is the Hermione of the Buffyverse, then Xander is definitely the Ron or even the Neville, and I think he embodies both of their Hogwarts houses a lot. Like, he's Ron in the sense that he is a Gryffindor through and through, even if he doesn't realize it at first. But he's also Neville in the sense that he could be a Gryffindor, but he also has some Hufflepuff qualities. So yeah, I initially was going to put Xander in Hufflepuff because he is definitely very caring towards his friends. I mean, he has his flaws, let's not lie, but he does care about his friends. But like Willow, he has a lot of issues with loyalty and honesty, which again are huge Hufflepuff qualities. So I don't know, I could see him being a Hufflepuff, but ultimately I think he's a Gryffindor because obviously he isn't brave at first and it takes him time to get there, but he does value bravery. He wants to be brave, he wants to be the hero. He just doesn't have any powers to like be the hero necessarily, but he's very much like Ron because he doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't think he's a Gryffindor, but ultimately he is, and he overcomes his fears and his insecurities, and ultimately he does embody Gryffindor a lot. So Xander is also in Gryffindor with Buffy and Willow. Again, there are going to be a lot of Gryffindors in this video, and it's not because I'm trying to put all the heroes in Gryffindor, it's just that, you know, when heroes are made in fantasy and sci-fi and all of that, they often embody Gryffindor traits because that's how the Hogwarts houses were made. So don't vote me, guys. It's not my fault. Now, Giles was a tough one, I'll be honest. Like, obviously, I had to logic my way into sorting, like, Willow and Xander. And so they were kind of difficult, but Giles was a toughie. But I think I've come to a conclusion. So, I don't think Giles is a Hufflepuff at all. I just don't think he is. And I don't think he's a Gryffindor because he is brave, but he's definitely not as reckless as like Buffy, Willow, or Xander. He puts more thought into things a lot of the time, and ultimately I think he embodies Ravenclaw and Slytherin more than he does Gryffindor. So that brings us to Ravenclaw and Slytherin. A lot of people, and I could understand this, would put him in Ravenclaw. Obviously he does value knowledge a lot. He is the one with all the books and the knowledge of evil and monsters and all of that. If you were to go to anyone in the Buffyverse, if you were trying to figure out what a demon was, you would go to Giles, and he definitely values knowledge, but I think he's a Slytherin, and maybe that's just because of the whole Ripper thing, but I mean, he definitely has a lot of Slytherin qualities. He is very power hungry, obviously, with Ripper, and we don't see a lot of that outside of the Ripper thing, so maybe you could say, like, oh, he's overcome that, but I still think we have to factor his past into this, and the thing that I think puts him most in Slytherin for me is his ruthlessness, which is a big Slytherin trait. On multiple occasions throughout the show, we see him being absolutely ruthless. You know, in season 5 with Dawn, you know, Buffy especially is like, no, we can't sacrifice Dawn. I don't care. She's my sister. We can't do that. And her friends are kind of on the fence, but they're like, yeah, we shouldn't sacrifice Dawn. That's not right. But Giles is like, this is the world we're talking about. Like, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's you. We have to save the world, which is a very Slytherin attitude to have. You know, he can see reality for what it is, and he's very realistic compared to everyone else. And again in season 5, obviously when he kills Ben and Glory, that is a very not Gryffindor thing to do. I don't think Harry or Ron or Hermione would be able to do something like that. Giles did what no one else could do when he killed Ben/Glory. And I think, you know, if it had come down to Buffy, Xander, or Willow, they would have been like, oh, let's try to help him. Let's try to save him. But Giles doesn't care. He's like, this is the world we're talking about. This is one person. We can sacrifice them. And there are a lot of other examples where Giles is very ruthless, but I think that the season 5 finale shows that the most. So, yeah. I'm putting Giles in Slytherin, which I think might shock some people, but oh well. So now I guess I'll talk about Oz, who at one point I thought I was for sure he was one thing, but after thinking about it, I think I changed my mind. So right off the bat, I don't think Oz is a Gryffindor or Slytherin, because Oz is such a chill dude. He just goes with the flow, and that eliminates Gryffindor and Slytherin completely, which leaves us Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. And at first, I was for sure Oz was a Hufflepuff, because he's so nice, he cares about others, puts others first, and I could see him being a Hufflepuff, but I started thinking about it, and Oz is very intelligent. We see that multiple times throughout the show, which intelligence and knowledge alone don't make you a Ravenclaw, because you have to value those things, and I don't think Oz values his education that much. However, he does have a lot of other Ravenclaw values, such as independence, individuality, creativity, and wittiness. And, I mean, we see that every time he speaks up. The comments that he makes are very wacky, very out there, but he doesn't care. He's just going to say what he wants to say. And that is a very Ravenclaw thing to me. Just everything that comes out of his mouth screams Ravenclaw. So I am putting him in Ravenclaw. You guys might disagree. And again, I could see an argument being made for Hufflepuff, but for now, I'm putting him in Ravenclaw. So moving on to Spike, who I think is the opposite of Oz. He's definitely either a Gryffindor or a Slytherin. And Spike, as someone who is both villainous and wants to be, you know, known and famous, when it comes to characters like that, there's a very thin line between Gryffindor and Slytherin. And so we just have to analyze his motivations and his values throughout the show to see, you know, which he is. The thing that really solidified my decision was in season 2, before Spike gets his soul. Throughout season 2, Spike and Angelus, you know, they talk big, they want to be powerful, they want to be the best vampires in the world, all of that jazz. But when it comes down to it, Angelus wants to open the portal of Kappa and send the world to hell, and Spike is like, you know what? I am not really down with that. He thought he wanted power, and he ultimately does, but he doesn't want to have to sacrifice all of that and all of the good in the world to achieve that goal, which I think puts him in Gryffindor over Slytherin, because he isn't willing to sacrifice everything just to gain power. So yeah, I think he's a Gryffindor. But on the flip side of that, Angel, obviously I said Angelus was a Slytherin, but Angel himself, I think, is hard, because where Spike, both with and without a soul, and on both shows, I think embodies Gryffindor, Angel is so inconsistent, not just because Angelus and Angel are so different, but because Angel was written very differently in season 1 of Buffy, and then in season 3 of Buffy, and then on Angel, so it's kind of hard for me to, like, have one opinion, because he is so inconsistent a lot of the time. But I think Angel is a Gryffindor too, because when he is Angel, not Angelus, but Angel, he isn't necessarily striving for power. He wants redemption, and he wants to be a force for good. And, you know, he puts so much value on goodness, he has to be either Gryffindor or Hufflepuff. And I think he's more Gryffindor than he is Hufflepuff, because he does have his moments where he is very intense. And I just don't think that says Hufflepuff to me, so I'm going to put him in Gryffindor. But it was tough. It was tough. But I think that's where I'm going to put him. Now moving on to Cordelia, who to me is firmly in Slytherin, not because she's a mean girl, but I think the traits that she has as a mean girl in early seasons of Buffy, does align with a lot of Slytherin traits. And she is similar to Willow in that she changes so much. You could almost choose any episode and she would be completely different in this episode than in this one. And her motivations do change to be more Gryffindor. But I think, she is very ambitious and she does surround herself with people who she knows are going to help her in life, which is a very Slytherin thing. In season 1 of Buffy, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, she talks about how surrounding yourself with shallow people beats being alone. But not only that, it helps elevate her status as this popular mean girl. And she surrounds herself with people who ultimately are going to help her if she surrounds herself with them, who are also popular, who are also, liked by a lot of the school, and hold a lot of power within the school. So she can be homecoming queen, prom queen, all of that jazz. And eventually that translates to, her goals later in life. She wants to become a big actress in Hollywood, which doesn't end up happening, but that was her goal for a long time. And her ambition throughout both series, I think, puts her in Slytherin for me. Although in later seasons of Angel, I could see her being in Gryffindor, but because the Hogwarts sorting happens when the students are young in the Harry Potter universe, I am going to put her in Slytherin, because if she were at Hogwarts at age 11, she would definitely be at Slytherin at that point in time. So for the sake of this video, that is what we're going to go with. Someone who's very similar to Cordelia, Anya, I would also put her in Slytherin. Again, not because she's a mean girl, but her traits as a sassy sort of antagonist put her in Slytherin. As a vengeance demon, she is very cunning and calculating. She uses flattery to gain people's trust and then grants wishes for them, which ultimately spread evil and chaos. And I think she's similar to Giles with her ruthlessness, because when Giles is talking about the things with Dawn and other things like that, Anya often sides with him at first and is like, yeah, it's just one person. And then Xander is kind of like, no, Anya, that's not how you should be human. That's not how humans think. But, she just doesn't see why that's wrong. And she can be very ruthless. And I think that puts her in Slytherin with Cordelia and Giles. On the completely opposite side of the spectrum, we have Tara, who, let's face it, is definitely a Hufflepuff. I don't think anyone would argue with putting Tara in Hufflepuff. She is very smart and she is very brave, but she's definitely a Hufflepuff. She is, out of all the Scoobies, she is the kindest, most caring, most loyal. Even after her and Willow break up, she still sticks by Buffy and is friends with Buffy. And she cares about Dawn and makes sure Dawn doesn't feel alone. And even though Willow wronged her so much and the breakup was completely her fault, she stuck around and they ended up getting back together after Willow improved and worked on her issues a little bit. So I think that just reflects on Tara's loyalty and how much she cares about others. And, Tara is just a Hufflepuff through and through. So we've almost made it through the main cast. We only have 2 more main cast members, and then there's one other person that I want to talk about. The next person I'll talk about is Riley, who is hard to place because I think, he is very much a piece of cardboard. He doesn't have much of a personality, and we only ever see him through Buffy's eyes. And I'm not a Riley hater, per se. I don't hate Riley, but he is very one-dimensional a lot of the time, and so it's hard for me to really analyze him because we really don't know much about his personality or his motivations. I think I would put him in Hufflepuff, but maybe Gryffindor, but I'm gonna go with Hufflepuff. I think the thing that makes me put him in Hufflepuff the most is his loyalty. He isn't the most loyal or honest in season 5 with the whole vampire thing. With the initiative, he was very loyal to the initiative, and then when he met Buffy, his loyalty kind of shifted, And he was so loyal to Buffy that he ended up throwing all of his dreams and his life's purpose, essentially, away, which may not have been the best choice, but because his perspective on demons and everything changed, he really believed in Buffy and her cause, and he left all of the initiative stuff behind to go with her, and that just is a very helpful thing to me. Again, I could see him being in Gryffindor because, him wanting to make it to the top of the initiative and achieve that, glory is very Gryffindor, but I'm going to put him in Hufflepuff for now. So, last main cast member, Dawn. She's very similar to Riley in that we really only ever see her through Buffy's eyes until, season 7, maybe later season 6. She's just, the annoying little sister, and so we don't really get to see a lot of her personality. I think, like Riley, she is either a Hufflepuff or a Gryffindor, but I'm going to go with Gryffindor because Dawn wants to be so much like Buffy throughout the show, and Buffy is Gryffindor through and through, so I think Dawn is too, because she wants to be like her sister, and she is a lot like her sister. I mean, she was literally made out of Buffy, which I think should automatically put her in Gryffindor. I mean, she is her own person, obviously, but she is so much like Buffy. I'm gonna put her in Gryffindor because we don't know much about her for me to make any other judgment. Now, obviously, that is everyone in the main cast. However, there is one more person I want to talk about who I think everyone sort of considers an honorary member of the main cast. She is a very beloved character, and that is Faith. Faith is hard because she is very complex. However, I think she's a lot like Dawn in that she wants to be like Buffy. She wants to be a hero. Like Angel, she wants to be this force for good. So I think she's a Gryffindor. Again, I tried to warn you guys, there were going to be a lot of Gryffindors, and that is not my fault. That is just, again, the hero's journey, and I think the way people view, what a hero should be, heroes end up having a lot of the same qualities, which happen to be the qualities of Gryffindor House. Not my fault, just how it ended up playing out. But yeah, I think Faith is a Gryffindor, just like Buffy, and, you guys can tell me what you guys think. You might disagree. That's okay. Well, guys, I think that's everyone that I'm going to sort for this video. I definitely want to sort Angel characters at some point because this was a fun video to do and it was fun to think about, but I need to rewatch Angel at some point before I do that. Feel free to comment down below what you guys think about these sorting opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree on certain characters? What do you guys think? Comment down below. And also, again, make sure if you're not following my Instagram, you go follow that. I'll link that in the description. It's a lot of fun over there, and you guys can help choose the next video, maybe. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing. And again, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.